Welcome to Mr. Recapper. After stumbling upon a mysterious book that can take lives, Light Yagami embarks on a mission to rid the world of criminals. However, his actions draw the attention of L, the world's greatest detective. Today we'll recap a movie named Death Note. One fateful night in Tokyo, Light Yagami narrowly avoids being attacked by some thugs at a bar. On his way home, he discovers a black notebook titled Death Note. Scene 1. Intrigued, he takes it home. Upon opening it, he finds rules written on the first pages, including the ominous statement, "The human whose name is written in this notebook will die." Skeptical, Light dismisses it as absurd, but as the son of a detective who dreams of eradicating evil, he decides to test it. Writing the name of a criminal he saw on the news, a man who killed a student, he goes to bed, doubtful it will work. The next morning, Light is stunned to read that the criminal died of a heart attack during the night. Dismissing it as coincidence, he heads to college. Later, he encounters the same thugs from the bar. Realizing they now pose a serious threat, he writes one of their names in the death note. Right before his eyes, the man collapses from a heart attack. Graphic details. The scenery is horrible. Right before his eyes, the man collapses from a heart attack. Shocked yet convinced of the notebook's power, Light starts his journey home but is startled by Ryuk, the Shinigami who originally owned the death note. Over the next 4 months, Light begins using the death note to execute criminals, becoming an online sensation known as Kira. His actions, however, attract the attention of law enforcement worldwide, including his father, Soichiro Yagami, head of Japan's task force. Struggling to solve the case, Soichiro seeks help from L, a reclusive but brilliant detective known for cracking unsolvable mysteries. L, with his assistant Watari, communicates through a computer. He presents data showing a pattern in Kira's killings, identifying them as deliberate murders. L broadcasts a message worldwide, taunting Kira. Provoked, Light writes the name of the detective on live TV. The man collapses from a heart attack. But it was a setup. The victim was Lind L. Taylor, a death row inmate posing as L. "Gee," he says, as they stand in the hallway together at the border of separation between his 2 cells. But it was a setup. The victim was Lind L. Taylor, a death row inmate posing as L. The real L, speaking through a modified voice, reveals that this test confirmed his theory. Kira needs a person's face and full name to kill. L then reveals that the broadcast was restricted to Tokyo, narrowing Kira's location. His subsequent analysis suggests Kira is a student, as the murders occur during breaks and weekends. Realizing L's rapid deductions, Light asks his father to let him join the investigation. Soichiro declines, deeming it too dangerous for a college student. Frustrated, Light hacks the police database, learning they suspect Kira is a student. In response, he kills 24 criminals in a single day to mislead the task force, demonstrating his control over their deaths. This move backfires. L deduces Kira has access to police information, narrowing the suspects. L assigns FBI agents to monitor officers' families, including Light's. Aware he's being followed, Light schemes to uncover the agent's name. Ryuk offers him the Shinigami eyes, granting the ability to see anyone's name and lifespan, but at the cost of half his own life. Light refuses and devises another plan. Experimenting on prisoners, Light discovers he can manipulate victims' actions before death, including forcing them to write notes or escape. Armed with this knowledge, and knowing anyone who touches the death note can see Ryuk, Light prepares for the next phase in his deadly game. Light decides to set his plan in motion at dawn, choosing to take the bus to college with his girlfriend Shiori. As they board, the agent tailing him also hops on, sitting behind them. Light confronts the agent about the surveillance, but the agent feigns ignorance. At the next stop, a thief boards the bus and coerces the driver into submission, initiating a robbery. Upon seeing the thief, Light writes on a slip of paper that he will try to immobilize the criminal when he approaches, and shows this note to the policeman. Recognizing the danger, the agent steps in, flashing his badge and introducing himself as Ray Pember, an FBI special agent. He assures them that he will use his training to protect them. However, Light accidentally drops the note, and the thief spots it. The bandit holds a gun to Light's head, questioning his next move. Just then, the thief catches sight of Ryuk and is terrified by the Shinigami's devilish appearance. In a panic, the thief fires at Ryuk, only to realize the shots have no effect. Desperate, he orders the driver to stop the bus and flees, only to be run over while crossing the street. When the reveal comes, the bandit is taken by surprise and not deliberately attacked, the future Junka. This was all part of Light's plan. By writing the thief's name in the death note, Light manipulated the events to cause the robbery. Light boarded the bus early, ensuring Ray Pember would follow, and seized the chance to learn the agent's name. The paper Light dropped was actually a piece of the death note, allowing the thief to see Ryuk upon touching it. Light then wrote in the death note that the thief would run out and be run over, which happened as planned. Now Light has Ray's name and face, enabling him to write it in the death note. However, he knows that doing so would practically confess he is Kira to L, considering he's under surveillance. Assuming other agents are also monitoring the relatives of the task force, Light knows he must eliminate all the agents at once to avoid suspicion. He starts tailing Rei until he encounters him in the subway, setting his plan into action. Light leaves an envelope for Rei to find, containing a radio communicator and some sheets of paper. When Rei dons the communicator, Light, in the adjacent car, causes a criminal on the subway to have a heart attack, proving he is Kira. Following his plan, Light asks Rei to disclose the number of FBI agents on the mission, and forces him to write his 11 colleagues' names and the team leader on the papers in the envelope. Unaware these were Death Note pages, Rei unwittingly seals his colleagues' fates. Obeying Kira's orders, Rei exits the subway at the next station, only to suffer a heart attack a few seconds later, dying in front of his fiancée. Following these deaths, many police members of Suichiro's team withdraw from the investigation, fearing for their lives. With the team reduced, L decides to work closely with the group, revealing his appearance and asking to be called Ryuzaki for security reasons. Despite this setback, L continues his investigation, scrutinizing security footage from the station. He notices Rei pointing towards the car in his final moments, confirming that Kira is someone Rei was investigating, either from the commissioner's family or Detective Yagami. Simultaneously, Naomi, Rei's fiancée, also a detective, begins her own investigation into Rei's death. She visits the hijacked bus company and discovers that Rei was following Light. Confronting Light, she claims to be Rei's fiancé and accuses him of being Kira, challenging his entire strategy. Light feigns ignorance. At home, Light devises a contingency plan in case he can't write, and schedules deaths to occur over the next few days. This foresight proves useful when L, suspecting Kira as a Yagami family member, installs security cameras throughout the house, particularly in Light's room. Light quickly notices his room has been tampered with, realizing he must be more cautious. As the pre-written deaths occur, Light remains unconvinced of Light's innocence, stating he can only clear Light as a suspect after a recent criminal's elimination. Knowing he's climbing the suspect list, Light knows he must act soon. On the 7th day, after dinner, Light takes a bag of chips to his room to study. While studying, a last-minute news report reveals a man suspected of kidnapping a girl has been arrested after the victim's body was found at his home. After all, the victim was part of the collective at some point. He made a good impression. It startled him awake, has been arrested, after the victim's body was found at his home. Upon seeing the news, Detective Yugami and L begin scouring the cameras watching Light's family. However, none of them seem to be following the report or acting suspiciously. Suddenly, a reporter interrupts the broadcast, announcing that the recently arrested criminal has suffered a heart attack during interrogation. This forces L to remove the cameras, as Light is seemingly innocent. Yet this is all part of Light's plan. If this is all part of Light's plan, maybe the killing of Light's wife was not a killing. After taking a packet of chips, Light manages to hide a small TV and a piece of the death note inside the package. When the news of the crime airs, he uses his left hand to write the criminal's name, out of the camera's sight. Following another setback, L receives a call from Naomi, who vows to prove that Light is Kira, even at the risk of her own life. She asks the detective to monitor the art gallery's security cameras. Minutes later, Naomi kidnaps Shiori and forces her to call Light for a date. When Light arrives, he finds Shiori held hostage and is confronted by Naomi, who urges him to confess to being Kira. Light denies it persistently. In a last attempt to reveal his true identity, Naomi discloses her real name and challenges Kira to kill her to save Shiori. At that moment, police approach, distracting Naomi with the sound of sirens. Shiori breaks free and runs towards Light, but Naomi shoots Shiori, who dies in Light's arms. Overcome with guilt for killing an innocent person, Naomi immediately regrets it and takes her own life with a shot to the head. Naomi had revealed herself as Rei's fiancée when she first confronted Light. Light then investigated and discovered her real name through the priest performing their wedding. Shiori revealed herself as a real name through the priest performing their wedding. He used the death note to compel her to lure Kira to the gallery and call L to monitor the security cameras. Light wrote in the death note that Naomi would shoot her hostage and then take her own life, remorseful for her crime. Light also scripted Shiori's death in the death note, writing that she would be kidnapped and taken to the gallery to await her boyfriend. When she tried to escape, she would be shot in the back while running into her boyfriend's arms. This entire plan was orchestrated by Light Yagami to have Naomi kill Shiori in front of him, providing him an argument to join the Kira investigation. With his plan complete, Light Yagami meets with his father and requests to join the search party. However, L himself emerges from the shadows, inviting Light to use his intelligence to assist with the investigation. Elsewhere in Tokyo, a well-known presenter, Misa Amane, finishes recording her show and heads home. Along the way, she is pursued by a maniac obsessed with her, wanting them both to die together. When he finally corners her, he suddenly suffers a heart attack and dies next to the death note. Misa touches the notebook and sees the Shinigami, Rem, the owner of this death note. The death note's secretary discards his son's notebook, exposing the list of supreme no-ones. After Misa's family was murdered by a psychopath, the Shinigami, jealous, felt sympathy for her and decided to be her guardian. Realizing the maniac was about to kill Misa, Jealous saved her by writing the man's name in his death note, breaking the Shinigami's main rule to take lives, not save them. Jealous turned to dust, transferring all his remaining life to Misa. Before losing his powers, Jealous asked Rem to take care of Misa, and Rem gave Misa his death note. Following Shiori's funeral, Watari takes Light to the investigation base, where he and L play a game of chess. L accurately recounts Kira's strategies but ultimately loses in checkmate. At Sakura TV headquarters, a reporter announces that a person calling himself the second Kira has sent videotapes to the station, demanding they broadcast one live. In the recording, the second Kira, using a voice changer, predicts a presenter from another station will die live in a few seconds, which happens as foretold. The commissioner orders the broadcast to end immediately, and one of L's investigators drives to the station. He finds people protesting in favor of Kira. As he tries to disperse the protest broadcast live, the detective suddenly suffers a heart attack. Security tries to help but are also killed as they appear on camera. L concludes that this new Kira can kill just by seeing people's faces, and orders the cops to stay away from cameras. Before the video ends, Misa, as the second Kira, sends a direct message to the original Kira, stating she has the Shinigami's eyes and will use her powers to help him create a new world. Detective Yugami arrives, crashing his minivan into the station's equipment, breaking cameras and transmission wires with a few shots, effectively ending the broadcast, and so the story of the broadcast is ended. The owner of the Death Note faces doom as Detective Yugami argues that this confirms Misa and Light's innocence. They were confined for 18 and 23 days respectively. However, this last rule is fabricated, with Light himself requesting Rem to inscribe it while burying his Death Note. With this false innocence established, L lets Light bid farewell to Misa. Seizing the chance, Light whispers to her about the buried Death Note, urging her to retrieve it. Misa discovers Light's old notebook and regains her memories upon touching it, thus acquiring a new Death Note. In the suitcase containing the notebook, she finds a letter from Light, reminding her of their college encounter and revealing L's identity. He requests her to inscribe Liza's name, but due to her Shinigami eyes seeing thousands of names daily and her 23-day confinement, she cannot remember. Following Kiyomi's illumination, Kira's crimes recommence, aligning with Misa's release date. L decides to test the 13-day rule, contemplating using 2 convicts, but is rebuffed by Detective Yugami, who volunteers himself. Traveling to the US, he writes a convict's name, awaiting the 13 days to pass. As he embarks, L instructs Watari to retrieve Misa, suspecting her to be the second Kira. Aware of the threat to Misa's life if her crimes are exposed, Rem uses the Shinigami's Death Note to kill Watari and L, reducing his body to dust like Jealous. Simultaneously, L succumbs to a heart attack, dying at Light's feet, who then declares himself Kira, the god of the new world. With his adversary eliminated, Light retrieves a fake Death Note from Misa, believing it to be his original, and writes his father's name, manipulating him into bringing the notebook and ultimately ending his life. Upon his return, Detective Yugami reveals he does not possess the notebook and had monitored everything via camera, announcing his son's arrest. At that moment, an unexpectedly alive L emerges, explaining the events post-Misa's release. Death resumed, convincing him of her second Kira identity. On the second day, Watari replaced the real Death Note with a fake. Foreseeing an attempt on his life, L preemptively wrote his name in the Death Note, setting his demise for 23 days later, the maximum duration allowed. He showed this to Detective Yugami, who, persuaded to assist, monitored the investigation secretly. When Misa was recaptured, Rem's attempt to kill L and Watari failed, as their deaths were already fixed. L, realizing Watari's demise, feigned a heart attack, awaiting Light's confession. As Light reaches for a Death Note piece hidden in his watch, Investigator Matsuda shoots it from his grasp, causing it to fall. Light, still intact, attempts to retrieve it to write the agents' names, but is shot in the leg by Matsuda. In desperation, Light calls Ryuk to write everyone's names, but Ryuk only writes Light's name, resulting in his death in his father's arms. L, having defeated Kira, destroys the 2 Death Notes and spends his final days in solitude, playing chess until his peaceful death, with his case resolved.